Today, more from the property market frontline, how valuations work. Hello again, I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to our latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. And today, I'm joined again by our property insider, Edwin Almeida. Hello Edwin, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Martin.
It's very interesting times to be in property, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. Like I said, we were going to go on a roller coaster ride, but it was, hang on to your toupee because it's going to be a wild one.
And at the moment, it feels as though the downward forces are pretty insidious.
It's a nosebleed.
Yeah, okay. So I think there are some really interesting topics I'd like to explore with you over the next perhaps couple of videos. But one of the things that I'm getting a lot from people who send me individual pieces of information, they often will tell me privately what's going on, is they're having terrible trouble with property valuation. The first scenario was somebody was buying off the plan.
Yes.
Okay. They'd paid their initial money up front about 18 months ago at an expected valuation. They'd actually got a short form valuation certificate at that time. The bank then said to them to go back and get a full valuation. And the valuation came back this last week and it was 15% below what they were expecting.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things, Martin, is when a real estate agent or a property marketing company or a developer give you a certificate or a valuation before they even commenced work, it's only as good as to put maybe it's not even good to put chips in it. It's a piece of paper that's useless.
Right.
As you know, banks will not commit to a valuation. Within or more 3 months more than when the property is due for you to buy or exchange contracts or settle in that matter. So when you get these 18-month valuation certificates, they're useless. And that's how you've got to take them, because valuers or banks will send a valuer to do the valuation, and they've got to be within that 3-month period.
So I suppose in a sort of a flat or a rising market, it's not too much of a problem, right? Because effectively the chances are the valuation will go up.
And developers pray that the buyers will fall by the wayside so they can resell it again for more, and hence the legislation that was introduced by the New South Wales government to protect the buyer.
Right, okay, because previously they could basically get bounced, right, if a higher offer came in.
Yes, if the construction wasn't completed within the sunset clause. Yeah. And then they could get out, or the developer could rescind on the contracts, and they got more.
So now, of course, we're in a falling market, and so therefore prices are definitely on the decline. And I suspect also valuers are probably a little bit more conservative now, because my suspicion is it's harder to pick a good valuation in a falling market. That's probably the hardest scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, you've got other economic factors that we often talk about in these things that a lot of the general public don't know. And hence the reason why valuers are going to be a lot more conservative with off-the-plan purchases as it is. And one of them, Martin, which is one of the things that I've been lobbying the REI in New South Wales for many years and have failed to do anything about, is to protect our industry from the would-be marketing companies or these agencies that spring up everywhere, and even the financial sector, that get a 8 to 10% commission on the sale. So valuers know this. So if you, for example, let's use round figures. So if you've bought an apartment for, say, $600,000 off the plan, you can be assured that the commission on that off the plan sale or purchase was about $50,000 to $60,000. The standard commission for our industry is about 1.7 to 2%. So that's $12,000 versus $50,000, $60,000. So the valuers know that it's being an inflated commission, so they take that off the bat straight away, off the value of the property. because the commission has been overinflated. Then you've got the another scenario which the valuers are dealing with, and which we spoke about before, and that is the rental guarantees. So if it's 2 years, 3 years, well, then they take that into consideration as well, and they say, well, effectively, it's been loaded by another 5, 6, 7%. So there's your more or less 10% off the bat of the value of the property. Then you've got economic factors and market sentiment and trends. And if you're in the downward trend, well, guess what? To that, they'll add another 5, 10, 15, 20, and it'll continue to snowball.
And what about the analogy of buying a new car? You know, as soon as you drive the car out of the showroom, right, you've immediately lost a lot of value. Is this also true in terms of new properties when they're, you know, freshly minted, as it were?
Again, I say, in order to understand a development, always, for me, it's all numbers. So whenever I look at a development site or a potential development sale or proposed development sale, acquisition of land for any one of my clients, I do what I call a reverse feasibility. I look at the end sale value and then do all my, you know, and add all my figures as to all the costs, added costs for the construction. So we know the property depreciates, right? But the land appreciates. So when the market is hot, obviously that's going to go up. So that theory doesn't necessarily work unless you're producing an Aston Martin or a Porsche 911 that's limited edition, or for all Holden dealership just shut down and they built 500 HSVs, utes. A friend of mine bought one for 125,000. It's worth close to 200,000 because it's a limited edition. But unfortunately, we don't have that in property. So when the market turns, and you've actually got thousands and on the market, it's as though Holden said, hold on, we're going to shut the company. We're not only going to build 500 limited editions, but we're going to build 50,000 limited editions.
It's not really limited, right,
No,
at that point?
exactly.
Okay, right. So I guess the other interesting thing I've been wrestling with a little bit is that there are some, you know, valuation tools that are out there driven off the transactions that are going on at the moment and a transaction history. And I've also got a theory that in a falling market, those tools can't actually be relied on as much because effectively they'll be driven by historic higher prices than today. So, and when transaction volumes are also falling, you've got less data coming through. So how accurate are those automatic, the desktop valuations that people tend to want to use?
Look, again, you're limited by as you're saying, by the historical data. Hence, I say I'm all about live data and real data. And where do you obtain the live data and the real data? Is when typically valuers will call the local industry expert, the local real estate agents, and I'll say, hey, I noticed that you sold number 5 in this complex. Number 5 has the same similar floor plan to number 7. Blah blah blah. And by the way. The sale price isn't registered. What did you get for it? Now, I always play ball with them. I always tell them, what's the point in hiding? It's going to come out sooner than later, and I prefer to build friends rather than build enemies in that regard with valuers. So, and most agents will give the value of that information. So, and that's how they gather a lot of it. But then again, it also comes back to mathematics. It also comes back to they go to university to get a degree, for crying out loud, so they've got to do a little bit more than just call up real estate agents, you know. But it's that understanding of land costs, understanding of construction, understanding of inclusions, understanding the difference between SMEG and Sanya or some other import, understanding, glass splashbacks as opposed to just tiled 40 millimeter stone bench tops as opposed to 20, and all these things, all these inclusions, they're the formulas that valuers use. Now, when banks or people start doing the desktop valuations, that's when they get into trouble, I feel. I also consult for some solicitor firms, and they often call me to give them an idea and understanding of what, particularly if it's a property that's in dispute. separation, siblings fighting over the inheritance or whatever it may be, and they want a better understanding of what it's worth. Although I'm not a qualified valuer, but I can give them a very close idea as to what the value is. However, if they don't just want to rely on that, obviously you go and pay a professional. So they can give you that stamp of approval, the professional indemnity insurance, and that is something that tag me on that, because I'll come back to the professional indemnity insurance, and I'd say that's playing a big part in what valuers do. So they're going to be conservative, but so when you've got a valuer that has all the credentials, all the qualifications, they're going to go and look at the property. It's not just let's look at the screen, let's see all the pretty pictures. We use wide angle lenses for photos. You can pretty things up. I've even in the past seen agents, Photoshop water towers out from behind properties to give you this illusion of a nice scenery in the works. But so that's what you're paying for, and it is harder for these desktop valuations. But nevertheless, we are getting more and more data, so they'll follow the trends, particularly the banks will follow the trends. So going back to my point of professional indemnity insurance, we've got, I feel that valuers are going to start taking that a lot more seriously, because they don't want any comebacks. Now, it's just my belief, and I stress it's my belief, but if you got your professional indemnity insurance on the line and you're going to give somebody a valuation, you're going to almost play it down, particularly if the market's going in a downward trend, so that you won't be reprimanded, or shall we say, in the future, or called upon for any unknown reason. So, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on valuations as well.
Look, so what you're saying is, let me make sure I'm clear. In a falling market, because of the fact that there is potentially more downside risk ahead, valuers will tend to be more conservative.
Definitely.
Because if they are too aggressive and things go wrong later, then effectively they could be hit over the head with a 4x2. Somebody says, well, your valuation's wrong, right? So to protect their, if you like, their reputation, and to ensure that they are actually, as risk-free as possible, they will tend to go on the downside. Is that effective?
You only have to go to 2007 and look at what happened in the Central Coast with a lot of valuers there that were pandering to the side of the developers and they overvalued the property, knowing the fact that the market was dropping, and a number of valuers lost their licenses and were taken over the hot coals for it.
So what about this situation, and it used to be the case, I'm not sure whether it still is, where banks would do their own valuations. They'd have somebody from within the bank go and have a look at the property and confirm it, and then go on. Is that still happening or not?
You've got valuation companies that are on bank panels. All I know about the little that I know about valuations is they may have internal staff doing desktop valuations, but the values that you see on the field are independent of banks. The ones that go in there and do a little bit more. But here's a little tip for your viewers. If you do need to get a valuation done, don't just get the agent to send a valuer in there and allow the tenant to open the door for him. At the end of the day, I'd say that the person that you're really selling the property to is the valuer, particularly when the market's falling. And first impressions count as well, So you're really selling it to the valuer, and because you're trying to increase your position and give them the reasons why. So that's just a little tip for your viewers.
And I suppose the other point there is that tells me that actually, the valuation at any one time is always a bit subjective. It's always, it's there or thereabouts. There's no magic formula that says it's exactly that price.
No, that's correct. Yeah. Look, our industry, we've got a tolerance of 10%, which is, I think it's a very big tolerance. I'm generally within 3% of the sale of a property, and you can be as mathematical as you like. You can be as succinct as you want to be. But look, at the end of the day, it comes back to, especially in this time now, it's not a matter of what happens every month. It's a matter of what happens every week.
Yep. Because things are moving so quickly, aren't they? So the valuation that last week was there. It's going to be lower this week, lower next week, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, in some areas, I'm pegging values going backwards $5,000 to $10,000 a week.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unusual because, the last few years that wasn't the case. So it's a very different environment now.
Well, in some suburbs, it was the other way around. Yeah. You saw all these articles, this property is making more than somebody on $150,000 a year. It's doubled what somebody makes in that area per year and so forth. Well, you know what? It's the same in reverse.
Right. Edwin, thank you very much for your time. Very interesting to talk to you about property from the front line. You get a really very clear perspective from you. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. So there you have it. Yet more evidence of stress in the property sector. Not everywhere, of course, not equally, but I think the answer is that prices are going to continue to slide and we're going to see more stress ahead. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this post, please like it and share it and check back next time. Thanks for watching.